Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 7 of the Anime Junction Cast. I'm Mark, my co-host Brandon.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, and then a lot of good stuff, a lot of animes just aired recently, as well as for those watching on the video, this will be the last week where it looks maybe kind of a little jank. Coming with episode 8, we'll have a proper overlay for the podcast, so it should start looking better for the video watchers as well. But want to appreciate everyone that's listening to this on all the major podcast platforms for the audio as well. Definitely appreciate that.
And the non-major, let me tell you, we get a lot of listeners on the non-majors too.
No, definitely, it's a lot of good stuff that's moving forward. We definitely appreciate everybody's support. But I know it's been a big week for, I would say, anime and gaming, because if you think about Dragon Ball specifically, we just had the Sparking Zero come out, which has been doing really well. If you're watching this, it's about a week later, but later tonight they were recording this. We're going to be playing that game, live streaming it over on our at Game Junction Media over on the Twitch. So we'll be able to play that game as well. But also, at least when the week this is actually getting recorded, it's gonna be another week before it goes live. We just had the first episode of Dragon Ball Daima come out, and it was amazing. And it was about a 32-minute episode, which kind of surprised me at first. But and I don't know if they're going to continue doing that moving forward. It'd be nice, but
be under 30 at like 27 minutes or something. But
yeah, that's like the standard.
Cool.
That
was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we can get right back into Daima. That's the big show that aired this week, and for someone that like a few dozen episodes into Super, and I kind of dropped it and didn't care for it. This one both feels like it's written better and it just animated better than Super was, from what I remember. Maybe Super got better at going through, but it pretty much starts with the whole recapping of, more of Z than Dragon Ball, though it kind of does a quick little overview. But this pretty much takes place right after the Buu saga.
Yeah, which is crazy, and I kind of like that. I didn't have any problems with Super at all up until. So I didn't have any problems with it at all. I just stopped watching it at one point, and I just never came back around. I don't know why. People love Super. I mean, it's got a big audience, obviously, and people were pretty upset petitioning, it not stopping and things like that. But this makes sense. Dragon Ball Daima makes a lot of sense, and I loved it. And I can say I loved it more than most Dragon Ball Super episodes that I watched, which, again, I had no problem with the show. I just, at one point, I think somewhere around 150 episodes in, I just stopped watching, got busy, and never came back around, because I was watching it every single week, like watching it when it dropped and stuff like that. But yeah, Dragon Ball Daima, super cool. People, I think at first when this first got announced, I don't know if you remember, but we covered it right when it got announced, and a lot of people thought it was like, oh, this is gonna be some like stupid chibi type show. Like, that's kind of the rhetoric that went around about this show.
Yeah.
I'm like, not at all. This is not it. It's not like a pointless show, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah, because like the first thing I noticed, I mean, you kind of first of all, I get some of the issues with Super. I feel like had to do with the animation quality not really being all that good, and some of the episodes looked cheap, looked kind of bad with the animation. But looking at this, it felt like the other issue they're trying to correct for is because you start to see at the end of Z with the power creep problem, and it just felt like it got exponentially worse in Super, and it's just like, where do you go from there? Like, how many levels of gods do you need, before you like hit your limit?
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. Like, you kept, you hit this new cap, and it's God mode, and then there's something past God mode, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it starts to make less and less sense. Like, how is Goku doing anything with this guy that's, an ultra super god that, is the most powerful thing in the universe? If he touches it, it gets destroyed. Like, that type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
how, and that's how they made Lord Beerus out to be. Like, he was the ultimate life form. Like, they made him out to be like, all he had to do was flick people and they die, And I don't know if you remember that, but like, he would like flick people, like do stupid stuff and things like that, and it got kind of silly and too much there for me after a while with that. But the whole power thing was kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I'd say it was fine if it was they were just gonna stick with the movie that they did, but when they decided, hey, we're gonna take this, recut the movie into the TV show, and then kind of move forward, it kind of, it's like, okay, now we're past what is supposed to be this major god. Now we got to keep moving forward and stuff like that. Because it felt like you kind of did it a little bit with the Buu saga, with the Kais or the Supreme Kai and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
but they definitely, I noticed on this episode when it started, focused the most on the Buu saga because it's like the immediate predecessor for what we're going into. So for those of us that may have not watched the Buu saga in like like in 15 years realistically since I actually watched it, it was a nice little recap for what actually happened in that saga specifically because it's the one saga that I just remember the least amount, and I've gone back and
The
actually
Boo
watched
Saga?
the least. Yeah,
Oh wow, that's so. A lot of people would say the Cell Saga is their favorite, or I guess it's hard.
I
The
don't.
Boo Saga I think is my favorite though. I love the Boo Saga, I love the Cell Saga, and I love the Frieza Saga.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you want to call it? The Frieza or
Boo
the whole Namek saga? I guess
Saga, yeah,
it's
all the stuff with that. But
yeah, it's the Frieza slash Namek saga, and then it's the Cell saga. The android kind of a little bit short, thrown in the middle. Then obviously you have the Saiyan saga at the beginning of Z and stuff like that. But when I go back and rewatch, like I'll watch a lot of those, but I'll eventually, because it's just a lot to watch, I'll just drop it before I really actually get into the Buu saga. So at the very least, it was a nice recap. And then it was kind of interesting because if you've watched it before and you're kind of familiar with Dragon Ball, you're like, yeah, I get it. All this stuff was crazy at the time, but now you're watching it from somebody who's, freaking out like, oh my god, this is a powerful thing. Not even thinking about what happened in Super, which was kind of interesting. And
yeah,
it reminded me of the whole, what's it, the whole Demon King that they used, or the Demon World King, which I
oh
didn't
yeah,
even remember was a thing until I was rewatching the first recap to this episode. And I was like, even then, you feel like, oh, he just was not this. Maybe it's just me and I'm misremembering. He didn't feel like this big bad like villain just because how quickly and easily he was taken out at the end of the day.
yeah. Definitely didn't feel like that. I agree with that, but it's also again one of those things where it's been a long time since I've watched. There's episodes like I've gone back and watched again here in recent years of like Z and stuff, but I've not gone back through and like watched the whole thing. And I definitely like have watched like the more popular episodes because there's episodes like that stick out in my mind specifically. It's like I'll go up, look up, these certain episodes that I want to watch or whatever, and I'll watch those. Or like I like a certain DVD box set or whatever, and it's got some good episodes on it. Because it's one of those shows where it's like you know, um, you really you kind of can like start at any point of any of the sagas. Like you could have been a new watcher at any of the sagas because it was almost like a reboot every single time. It's a continuing story, yes, but it's also like sort of like a reboot at every single big saga in Dragon Ball Z, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
or it's just told in such a way that it's not bogging you down and being super convoluted with what happened, say in the previous arc. Yeah, that
Yeah.
happened and they'll reference it, but it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with what's going on like right now for the most part. Maybe a little bit in the Android saga as Dr. Jiro kind of goes back and references some stuff that happened before they all leave for Namek. But I think it really does a really good job. And that's just decent storytelling as far as like the anime was concerned.
And I did want to, since we are discussing this, and this is for the anime podcast specifically. Obviously, we talked about it on the Game Junction podcast, but the narrator of Dragon Ball Z passed away, which was, kind of a bummer. His voice was kind of the voice of Dragon Ball. I mean, if you think of the voice of Dragon Ball, it's that.
Oh
I
yeah,
think of the narrator for Dragon Ball every single time. If I had to come up with a voice for the show in general, it would be the narrator. Because I mean, like some of his narrations were like off the wall goofy, but he was like very serious. So some of them would, be kind of silly and stuff like that, but it would be in like a super serious moment. So like it ends off at this super serious moment, or starts back up the next episode at this very serious moment. It's like, wow, will Goku poop today? I don't know.
find out on the
you know,
next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Well, you have the Bruce Falconer like metal guitar playing in the background.
me?
No, while
Oh,
he's doing the
yeah,
the intro, the
dragon,
outro stuff.
dragon, rock the dragon. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's unfortunate if you haven't heard by now, but very very iconic. So
Yeah,
while you
for
can more in the passing, you can still remember all the good times and definitely the good memories. That's like a whole generation recognizes his
And
voice.
there was somebody else this year that passed away. Obviously, other than the creator, which was the big devastation. There was somebody else that was a voice actor that we covered that passed away. I think this year from Dragon Ball Z too.
I think I know
So
what you're
not
talking
only
about. I just
the
didn't have anything.
creator, but yeah, the voice actor. I cannot remember who it was for. I
Yeah, I
feel like it was
can't.
for Frieza, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
could
I
be
don't have anything
wrong.
pulled up, so it's just I can't
Yeah,
remember off the top of my head.
yeah, yeah. I can't remember either.
But for a long episode, it felt like a lot happened and a lot didn't happen, or they're trying to like bring some revelations because it was like half of it was just bringing everybody back up to speed with where we're at in the timeline. This is I don't know if this happens after Boo. I don't know if it's supposed to be a precursor to Super or it's just going to be it's they're splitting off at the end of Z. So then you have technically three different timelines. You've got now Daima timeline, you've got the GT timeline, and you have Super as like three separate timelines.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that. I'm not sure. It starts to sound like a Zelda type deal when you do all that.
But I mean, it makes
But
sense if you want to be able to start fresh from a certain point, and not have to worry about what comes next, like a soft reboot at this point in the timeline.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't quite know what they're going to do. Just based off, what we didn't get to watch much, obviously. So I'm not sure. I'll be interested to see what they do though.
Yeah, but obviously it starts off with the first episode. You kind of already know where this goes. Everyone's getting reverted down to children, but how they get there is like a big mystery. Obviously, that's pretty much where this episode's at. It's getting up to the point where it turns them into children. I don't want to be like spoiler, but it's one episode, and based off the trailer previews, that's kind of most people kind of already know this is where it's going. I didn't feel
Yeah.
like there's any super revelations, but like most of the episode deals with the three new characters that we have. So you've got Goma, or he's now Demon King Goma of the demon world. You have what looked like they said like a different version of the Kai, or maybe they said this in Z and I don't remember, but they're like apparently from the demon world because the ear shape they definitely mentioned. You've got his little henchman, which is Degesu, which looks very similar to the Supreme Kai essentially as far as the character design, and then his sister Dr. Arinsu. Sorry, I'm bad with some of these Japanese names sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
you are.
but I'm pretty sure she eventually, based off some of the trailer footage, you didn't see it in this episode, but pretty sure she also gets turned into a children. But on
Good
her
job.
time, the way she kind of just showed up and like was freaking out both Degesu and Goma was also kind of funny. You know, he's technically now the new Demon King, but scared of this scientist essentially was a little amusing to me.
Yeah, that's how Dragon Ball is though. But I
Yeah,
mean,
little goofy.
this just like redefines my love for the series. Like at the end of the day, even though there's stuff that I don't like, there's movies that I don't like, and there's different things that I don't like within the Dragon Ball universe or that's been created. I mean, Dragon Ball Evolution will make you not want to be a fan, essentially. Um, but I appreciate the series so much, and the fact that we got the big drop of Sparking Zero and it's doing so well. I guess we can speak on that because that is kind of partially
Yeah,
related to that.
yeah. Go
We
right
couldn't
into it.
find the games anywhere. I had a 2-hour round trip to get the game today so that we could stream it tonight. Now that's of the recording, for this podcast. I had to drive my Walmart, GameStop, and my other retro game store that gets new games in. None of them had it. None of them had it in town, so I had to drive way out of town. And you couldn't find it, right? You had a bit
So
of a
I guess not as
problem.
big. My GameStop didn't have it. They had like one copy for the Xbox version, which I don't have that Xbox. And then my Walmart had one last copy when I went there. So that was like my two shots that I had, or else I'm just having to get it digital. So
Yeah,
either they didn't make a whole lot of physical, or people were picking up the physical immediately. That's kind of how my GameStop was. They get X amount for pre-orders, and then they'll order a handful extra, and they usually sell out.
so I asked because I was angry. I wasn't very happy about the whole situation. So I asked, my Walmart's only got 3 copies total, and then wasn't getting more until the 15th, which, as of the recording today, today's the 12th, it came out yesterday. So they ordered 3 copies to last basically a week.
That's
And they thought
crazy.
they weren't going to sell it. It doesn't matter. It could have been Dragon Ball The Breakers, a really bad game, and it would have sold out on its opening weekend for the game.
Yeah.
It would have sold out. So I just can't understand and comprehend why. But then I also learned, um, remember how I was all upset about not being able to get the Ultimate Edition because I wanted to be able to have the season passes and stuff. You get the first 2 season passes plus all the other content, and they're going to support this game for 6 to 8 years. So those season passes won't last that long, but you get your money's worth with getting that Ultimate Edition with the first 2 season passes, everything else that it comes with. And you get an extra character that's locked behind this Ultimate Edition or the Collector's Edition. So I was like, I want to get that. Well, no retail stores got it. It was online only Ultimate Edition.
Crazy.
So I mean, I did end up because I had it on my wish list thing, and randomly one copy, and it tells you how many copies there are. One copy popped up for the Xbox Series X on Amazon. I very quickly just clicked order on it. It does, you don't have to pay until it ships, right? Well, it says it wasn't going to come until the 25th through the 5th. So I'm like, what? I'm not waiting until then.
Now,
Are
now if
you
you want to play
kidding
the
me?
game like right now.
And I really didn't want to get it. I love the Xbox, but the only reason I didn't want to get on the Xbox over the PlayStation is to play. Most of my other friends play on PlayStation. So a lot of people I play fighting games with play on PlayStation. I have absolutely zero problem getting it on the Series X because it's not one of the cloud games. It is an actual game on the disc. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have bothered. Um, but it sounds like I want to end up double dipping for this game, which I had absolutely zero intention of doing. And I thought I would eventually double dip and that I would get it on PC too, because I would want to run it at max stats. With a game like this, I feel like really maxing this game out as far as I can go on my PC would be pretty freaking awesome. I can imagine if you're running this on a decently high rig, it probably looks beautiful. And I've heard great things about the PC version. So a lot of people are opting for PC, which, you know, for fighters now, when every movement and millisecond counts, it makes sense.
No, yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's a great week for Dragon Ball. Got a new game, and however long we're gonna get this, I do remember I did hear some rumors that they're saying they did want to continue on after Daima or continue with Daima as far as the Dragon Ball story.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like we're not just getting whatever we're getting, but they want to continue on with the story, even though Akira Toriyama is no longer with us, unfortunately. So high hopes for the series, and hopefully with what they showed in the first episode, as far as like the quality of the episode, that can hopefully continue on. Got high hopes
Yep.
for it, but we'll ultimately see where the story wants to go. But I
One
just
thing I
like,
want to mention. Oh,
no,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, and you kind of felt with this where they're trying to like draw back on the power level. Like they explicitly mention it, like, hey, we want to weaken them, turn them into kids, trying to obviously address that issue, but go back to a more adventure style story that the original Dragon
With
Ball was. Definitely felt that in the first episode.
everybody knows I like Dragon Ball better than I do any of the series. I love the adventure aspect. I think it's way more interesting than the fighting aspect. I love Z, don't get me wrong, but I've 110% of the time I like Dragon Ball better. I thought it was more comedic while also at times much more serious. It can be very serious at times. But there was a lot of comedy in Master Roshi, how the way that he was in the series, he was funnier in Dragon Ball than he was in Z. But the adventure aspect and the Skull Pirates, like just all of it just screamed of the time, and I love it. It's like a time capsule, and it's like it feels like, I mean, obviously Akira, he made Z, so like he wanted that to happen. But I mean, originally the series, I mean, he had something in mind, and it was an adventure manga at the end of the day, and eventually an anime. but it was about adventure and friendship and all that stuff that was going on between Goku and Bulma, and he had this in mind. So like I feel like the evolution of what Z would become, because even when Z started, you didn't really know that it was going to end up being like a 99% fighting show.
Yeah,
Like
it,
it
it
was
didn't
gonna be
necessarily.
something- it
It
didn't give you those vibes when it first started.
no.
So, and I feel like he probably didn't actually intend on it going that way. And who knows? There may be something behind the scenes that we don't know. But from what I've read excerpts of interviews and stuff with, because I've always been very fascinated with Kira Toriyama, always have been, because of like his work with drawing the Dragon Quest stuff, so all the stuff behind that series. And there's this iconic photo of him playing Final Fantasy 1 uh around the time that he would have did Dragon Quest, which is hilarious because that was kind of like the competitor. But he was playing. He had his kid in his lap, and he was playing Final Fantasy on the NES, and it's just like this iconic photo. It's like, oh, like he was like us, because some people want to say that he wasn't, you know, he wasn't into the other things, because it's been put out there that he wasn't really an anime fan, but he like enjoyed video games and stuff like the rest of us. So um yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens with the show. I'm glad that you're liking it. I was kind of curious what you would think, because it seems like your anime tastes have changed a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, a little
uh
bit.
yeah, which is okay. I just wasn't sure how you were with shonen, or Dragon Ball as a franchise still today, but I don't love it any less than I did as a kid. I just don't.
I do like
Like
shonen, but
it
sometimes you run into the same issues every show. It kind of feels similar. Sometimes it's just like
yeah.
this drags on longer than it really
Well, that's a
needs to.
problem with One Piece. I think it drags. There's a lot of that I feel like is unnecessary. And then I would actually be able to watch the show, because, 1,000 episodes, like that's daunting, man. And it's not even broken up into One Piece and then this is One Piece Grand Adventure, or, like different One Piece series. Then it would make more sense. I could be like, oh, I can watch the original One Piece, and then here's kind of like Dragon Ball Daima. Here's, One Piece Z, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It just feels like it's just kind of I don't know. It's just a lot of what I used to watch is kind of the same, but sometimes my tastes have changed a little bit. I still love comedy. I still love, what's it like, High School the Dead, High School DD, that little bit of the perverse stuff at times. But there's
oh,
a more. Sometimes I don't necessarily mind a light horror aspect to some shows that I necessarily
tell you
that
what,
I not necessarily would have liked as a kid. That sentence
there's a
sounded
lot of
terrible.
boobage in Dragon Ball Daima. You may not have noticed it, but I'm looking at it right
It's
now.
not explicit like some other shows. It's there with like
It's
one
pretty
character.
explicit. It's more explicit than I remember in any Dragon Ball show ever.
Get that
Uh,
puritanical Western view.
oh, whatever. I tell you what, though, I'm really excited to have you check out Bleach for the Halloween month, since it's like, I mean, like we, it's not Halloween related, but it's obviously, it's about
I'm-
stuff surrounding that sort of thing,
yeah.
demons and stuff like that. So
I mean, it's not, and we could make the. I'm obviously going to watch this here in the next week or two. We'll get that sorted. I did eventually when I was at Walmart. I got the first
oh,
volume on
good,
Blu-ray of Bleach. It's still technically sealed, so hey, it's
cool.
ripe to watch it. This has got what the first 27
Like
episodes on it on
okay,
Blu-ray.
13. Okay, yeah, yeah. So we should do like the first, because the thing with Bleach is it starts out kind of slow. So I feel like we should do the first 5 episodes. So I feel like if we, I mean,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be that hard, right?
No, and to be fair, I should be able to get a little bit further than that. It's just
Oh
sometimes
well, I
when we're doing some of these longer running shows,
agree.
it's hard to say like, hey, I'm going to watch a whole first season of like 30 some
Yeah,
episodes in
because
like a week.
I made it to 3, and then I did end up watching more after we were done. Even though, as far as I don't know if we're going to loop back around and talk about it again, but
I mean,
I
why
want to
not?
see it out, because I mean we're getting another season, so
I mean, to be
eventually.
fair, it's been about 2 years since I've watched it, but I got all the way up to the Skypiea arc on One Piece that you were just talking about, which is
Yeah.
like, to be fair, like, you know, like 200 some episodes in, if I'm remembering correctly. So at a point I was watching, I got pretty far. I just got back bogged down with other stuff and kind of stopped watching it. And I need to pick it back up. Plus I started picking up. I've got the first 9 volumes of One Piece, the 3-in-1.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah.
a Luffy figure in front of where I had the One Piece statue, so I couldn't see
I
it
would like
exactly.
to at some point do manga on here. The problem is it's an extra added cost that we'd have to
Oh yeah,
calculate in.
it's at least
So
if
you
you're getting
know way ahead of time.
yeah, at
You
least if
know,
you're doing the physical, it's not the cheapest. Now if you're
well, I'm
doing
not.
digital, you're reading it. Say you're
I'm not
using
reading it digitally. I can tell you that right now.
it's
I
far
cannot.
easier, it's far cheaper to do digital at the very least. Uh,
I couldn't do it. I would not be able to concentrate reading it digitally.
but
There's
there's like
no way.
2 big issues you run into with the physical. One, it's kind of expensive,
Is it
like what,
confined?
$15 for like a volume or something like that. Or the
It's
three in
expensive.
ones are about 20
That's the
bucks.
problem.
And then it eats up a lot of space. Like it's, a big
Yeah.
issue.
And I'm not trying to collect anime and manga again. That's not the plan because I already don't have a space for the video game stuff I want to collect. So, I still love it, but I just don't have the space and the resources, man. Honestly, you gotta have space, and that stuff eats up space. I sold off my 1,500 movies, including anime. There was anime mixed in that, tons of anime, Blu-ray and DVDs. Um, I sold all of that off because I had to pick one hobby to stick with, one, as far as if it went on the collecting side of it, and I chose video games. But there was no way at that point in time I was collecting toys, I was collecting video games, movies, anime. I was collecting music, everything. I mean, I had an entire Godzilla shrine that it was basically like a giant condom. Um, yeah. I thought that would make you laugh.
That is pretty
Um,
funny.
but I had a cool. But I did tell you I sent you a text and said I'm going to get a few more Godzilla things to kind of represent my love for it. But also, apparently, we brought in a lot of people to Game Junction, the Junction Network from Godzilla. So it's like it's kind of symbolic of that too. That like there's other people that, love it as much as us that actually ask us to talk about it every week. Apparently,
It's just a little hard to watch it every week. And not this week, but I have worn my Godzilla shirt on this podcast for this one. It's the
oh,
Ava
I
shirt that
wore
I'm wearing because I don't have
got
that many anime specific
3.
shirts, but trying to mix it up here and there.
So this is Death the Kid. This shirt I've had since like 2014 from GameStop. This was when the show was new. So whatever year that was, around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can fit my old clothes again. I've lost a lot of weight, but it is still a little tight around and it was just always that way. Those GameStop clothes are like hit or miss, man.
Yeah, they definitely
But,
are. But I
but
mean,
yeah, you got into Soul Eater too, right?
I think I watched like 20 some episodes of
'Cause
it.
I'm pretty sure I watched it because of you. You got the set, the anime. I'm
Uh,
like, I didn't even know about it until
I,
you
I
were watching it.
I know I watched it. I don't remember having anything. I don't have anything physical now. I don't remember if I ever actually realistically did. But I remember watching it, and at the one time, everyone hated the what's it Excalibur character. He'd speak in a certain way, just ramble on. I thought that
Oh
character
yeah,
was
yeah, he was.
hilarious. It's like the
He was
one thing I remember from
definitely
that show.
but I liked it. I thought it was. I liked it enough to buy a shirt, so I
Yeah.
thought it was pretty good. I thought it was good. There's a lot of anime from that time that I really love. Um, but I would like to, at some point, I want to revisit some of the anime that brought us back around together, and got us talking again, which would have been the big two. You know what they are, right? The big two anime that got us
Yeah.
sort of. Okay, what are they? I don't hear what
I
you
don't
say.
remember, to be honest. I thought you were gonna
Oh my
say
god, are you kidding me?
I'm just a
We
bad. I'm
could
a
do
bad friend. Uh
Sword Art Online and Attack on Titan.
oh, you're
Those
talking.
are
Oh, you're. Oh, so I thought you meant like recent. I was like, I don't remember. If you're talking
no,
about like
no, no,
2012,
no.
yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I'm
Yeah,
not here
because
pretending like I know exactly what you're talking about, but like, Mark, you know well that you don't know what he's saying.
yeah, no, it was like those were the two because they were really hot at the time,
Oh,
right? Like
brand new.
this
Oh
was
yeah, I remember we went
yeah,
to a. I don't remember what it was called. We went to a convention up in northern Ohio, and
yep,
then I remember you going around like, "Hey, everybody got the new episode of Attack on Titan." Are you saying some stupid stuff?
That sounds like me. Yeah, I said something stupid, but no, I got my picture, and I've since lost the picture. If you have it anywhere, like
I have to.
somehow,
I'd have to dig for it. I don't remember.
I do not have it saved on anything. I don't have it anywhere. I had it physically and I had it digitally. I remember because at one point in time, I used it on. I may have posted it to Facebook way back then, but I cannot find it anywhere. So I was looking for the pictures of. I got my picture taken with two of the voice actresses from Madoka Magica, which was one of those magical girl shows, but with a twist. It was really popular at the time too. It had one of the most brutal endings ever. That show was awesome. But I was just telling you about another, and like this is coming from a guy that I'm not into the perverse anime. I'm not into ecchi that much.
It's a
Other
fun
than Henshin
genre.
Video, I'm just not into any of that whatsoever. But this Magical Girl show, it looks like another one with a twist. And I think we should. It's brand new. It's on Amazon Prime Video, like actually on Prime Video, not Crunchyroll. That we should check that out sometime.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I think that'd be fun. I'm really excited for you to watch Bleach. But that show is called Magilamere. So basically like Magic Premiere, but Magilamere Miss Magical Girls Inc. is what the show's called.
You get there
It's
eventually.
it's a brand new show, so it's even in the top of rankings for Amazon Prime. So I want to check that out. But I mean, for this month, I don't know when this episode is coming out, but we're doing all horror type stuff. So, uh, what do we got lined up? We
Yeah,
talked
so
about
this should be coming out on the 20th. So at the earliest we have one more episode, at least in the month of October. Probably, the next one's the third. It's close enough, realistically. Uh,
unless we do like a specific Halloween special and still do like a regular episode.
yeah, we
We do
probably
like a
could.
30-minute Halloween special all about specifically Halloween anime episodes or something.
Absolutely, from zombies to vampires to just general horror, everything kind of goes in one. Of
I mean,
hey, this is
Rosario
everything
Vamp.
I could pull out a bunch of physical stuff that I have and kind of go over it.
You like Rosario Vampire, right? Or no?
I watched it. I watched it a little bit. I think I watched most of the first season. I thought it was okay, but it kind of, at least to me, it felt more like too much of a school show at times. Maybe I just didn't give it the chance.
It's supposed to be a monster school, so it kind of made
Yeah,
sense. It was a school for monsters, so
this is
it's
probably
sort
why
of
it never really grabbed me. It's too much of like a slice of life show.
it was there. It was definitely there for sure.
Yeah, but
But are we ever going to watch My Little Pony? Do you want to ask that?
I'm not a brony, so that's gonna be a hard no for me. You can watch it all you want. I don't
Okay.
watch little girl shows, so
All right. Well, I guess we
shots
probably should
fired.
wrap this episode up since we got a stream here soon. We're playing Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I mean, hey, went off the scheduled tangent, but it's always
Oh,
great.
we're good, man.
But
This is one of the best episodes yet.
no, I think absolutely. But Cardcaptor Sakura, I know we
Yeah.
watched this week, and this is one of your favorite ones. Like, I just want to give it right to you. Like, I guess what do you want to say about it?
Okay, so the thing about this anime is it was during a time when it was like my very early days of anime. I actually remember watching Cardcaptor Sakura on Cartoon Network. It would be part of I think it actually showed on Cartoon Network and then it showed also on Toonami. I'm pretty sure that it was on both because it did get to where it was like less of a kid show at some point, even though it was like still more it was more innocent than most, if you will, but people had a problem with I remember there would be like that sort of transformation where she was like kind of naked but not naked.
You
It
don't
was
really
almost like
see a whole lot, but there's the outline. Because I mean,
yeah,
it comes. It's a magical girl slash romance. It's like the main two genres that are advertised for the show. But
it's
it has,
absolutely the most described show I would ever watch. But
yeah.
it doesn't to me it doesn't give me the vibes of it fully being either of those. if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like
Because
there's an extra genre, but it's not really defined at times with the amount of action that's in the actual show.
Cardcaptor Sakura is really interesting. It's one that the anime and manga are very different, very different. The anime plays more into, I want to say, more of the kiddish type aspect of it, which like around the time that me and you would have watched it, obviously it made sense. And I didn't even know what an anime was yet. Like I was watching this and didn't even know what anime was. I just knew that I liked all these shows way more that were on Toonami. And what do you know? At that point in time, it was all pretty much anime on Toonami. At that point in time, this is, there were things like Aqua Teen, Hunger Force, things like that, but it was like 90% of what I watched on there was all anime. And Dragon Ball was on both the Cartoon Network and Toonami for some reason. They would like, I don't know, they kept switching it and stuff like that, which is really interesting. But it's one of those shows where it is a magical girl show. It does have the elements, obviously, of romance, like you said. It's like young, sort of innocent romance, but it's more of a show where I feel like it's just like I was talking about Kiki's Delivery Service, where there's this sort of innocence to it, where it's not super crazy, over the top, bloody, things like that. Like it captures me in a way that just like brings me back to my childhood when I watch it again. And having watched again the first 3 episodes, I don't feel any different than I did before. I mean, I think the show's great. I thought the manga was great. Um, like I said, two completely different things. They changed so much from the manga to the anime. The manga is more brutal and over the top than the anime is. They definitely made the anime with the intention of a wider audience.
Yeah.
They were trying to hit a wider audience for sure. But if you want like the more sort of, I guess, obviously that's what they originally intended the manga to be, was to be a little more brutal and more happening. um Check that out, but I think it's worth checking both out. I think the anime still holds up. I think it's really good. I don't know if any of it is in print anymore, unfortunately. As far as I'm aware, none of it's in print, so
I because the original manga, because I know there's two versions of the manga and there's two versions of the anime outside the movie. So you have the original manga run from 96 to 2000 with the original TV anime running from 98 to 2000. But you had let me pull it up real quick. Okay, so you also had from 2016 to 2024, you had the Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card,
yeah.
what the arc,
That's
yeah,
one
and
I've
then you
never.
had the anime that aired recently for that as well from
What?
the clear card anime aired back in 2017 2018 technically, because I accidentally started watching the clear card. It started like, this doesn't look familiar, it's
I have never
widescreen, it
seen it.
looked really different, and I was like, oh wait, I didn't realize they made a whole second series of it with the second manga. But both mangas apparently it wasn't done by one artist, it was done by what they call Clamp, which is a all-female Japanese manga
Yeah,
artist group,
and a
with
great one at that. They do good stuff.
yeah, so it's one of those ones where it's not done by like one person, but a group of people actually came together and actually made the manga, which is all the more interesting. But I've never watched, not watched. I've never read the manga at all. I've only ever watched the TV series. But unlike you, like I remember watching it on Cartoon Network and Toonami, but it was sparingly. It's like, the episode's on, I'll watch it, but I didn't go like out of my way to watch it. Maybe it just didn't grab me the same way as say like a Dragon Ball Z did as a kid. But I
Sure.
definitely, like a lot of those Toonami shows, definitely remember seeing the show.
I felt like, so I'm a Sailor Moon fan too, but I feel like at the time, I like the show way more than Sailor Moon, and that's the pinnacle of magical girl shows, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what that is. Um, I didn't appreciate Sailor Moon back then like I did like other stuff. I definitely did not, because I was just like, it, it's the exact same like I don't want to say concept, because this show is not like that. I'm telling you, it is so different than the genre it's defined in. But if you talk about magical girls and romance, that's what Sailor Moon is in genre form as well. Romance, obviously, with the guys, the masks, and all that stuff. I forget names, but Um, this just like go in with an open mind. That's how I feel about this. I feel like you should just go in with an open mind. Don't think anything. Same with Madoka Magica. Like, had I not heard that that was like, a definitely not a kid show and there's some pretty crazy stuff that happens, I may have never watched that. And I got you to watch it too. Which is really cool. And it's a good show. And it's a magical girls concept, but it's spun on its head.
Yeah.
Like it is completely not for kids. And it seems like a very innocent show when starting it. That's the crazy thing. So I kind of feel that way because I mean, like you're dealing with like impending doom in Cardcaptor Sakura as well. So it's kind of like, you don't know what's going to happen. I can't speak for Clear Card. I haven't watched it. It sounds like I absolutely have to though, because I mean, I like the original show a lot. But there was again, this when I first watched this, I didn't even know what an anime was yet. I knew this is one of the reasons I learned about anime because I then learned about Shonen Jump. And if you remember, I'm sure you remember the story. I haven't told it on this podcast, but I was in fourth grade, and you didn't know what the stuff was yet. Nobody else did. Nobody in that entire school knew what the heck it was yet. But I got a Slam Dunk manga. My grandma bought it for me. I was already super enthralled with manga, anime, Japan, period. I was obsessed. And it said bastard in it. And everybody came around was reading that it said that in this what they thought was a kid's book. And I got the book taken away from me. I got the manga taken away from me.
Because of
My,
course you
my,
did.
my parents had to come and pick up the manga. Do you remember that?
I
Because
do.
that's the year you moved there. So I remember a lot from that year specifically because that's when you moved to the school. Um, and I don't even know if we were friends yet until just like it could have been just shortly after that we sat at a table and then sort of started talking, and that's when I became really good friends with you. Um, but yeah, it was. And Slam Dunk is a very good manga and anime, by the way. Don't disregard those sports anime. I'm telling you, some of them are really good. Ice Shield 21, Slam Dunk. What's the soccer one that's really good? That really
I don't know if
popular.
it's the right one. There's like a Captain Tsubasa one, but I don't know
Yeah,
if it's the right one you're thinking of.
that's really good. Um, there's a lot of really good sports anime as well.
Yeah. Plus, I just watched one that was in theaters, so I just watched a standalone movie to the what's it, the Haikyuu, the volleyball anime. I'm sure I butchered
Yeah,
the name, but it was a decently interesting movie and stuff like that. The one thing that I remember watching this, because I went back and watched the English dub for this one, unlike the Dragon Ball Z Daima, which I only had the subtitle before. It's like, oh, it's the first time I hear the Japanese voice actors for Dragon Ball, but they continuously, and it probably didn't matter when you were a kid, but Sakura's name, they just butchered it, and I could not cringe every time they said her name. I tried to remember how they were saying it, and I just can't not mispronounce the name like they did.
They say it. How do they say it?
Sakuya, maybe.
Yeah, it's Sakuya.
That's the only way I can think of it. It's like that's
Kind of like
close. It's like an English way if you've never heard the word before, but it's very obviously not the right way to
Sakuya.
say the name.
Yeah,
And it's not even a harder Japanese name. It's one of the easier ones.
I know, but yeah, that's what they say, Sakuya.
Yeah,
And it's like,
it bugged me
gotta be
immediately.
like it's got to be like a certain just like we have people here that all speak differently and say, you know, I know people that say New Orleans. New Orleans. That's how they pronounce it.
I think yeah, Orleans be probably the proper way to say it. It's French. But I mean,
Sure.
yeah, I guess moving on. Speaking of like the mispronunciation of the names, went through and watched I don't know, maybe not horror-esque, but a Halloween, deals with like a lot of demons, stuff like that. Demon City Shinjuku from the 80s, and definitely felt the age on this dub for sure.
Oh
Considering you've
yeah.
got like like a normal East Coast sounding like American, you had like Deep South. You had another character, kind of like a kid who kind of, I don't think it wasn't like a Brooklyn accent. Maybe it was. No, he had like a Hispanic accent for one of the characters in the show. Like it was like all over. Like it did not make any sense. Like, oh, you're in Japan, you've got like every American accent possible in the show. It was like one of the early things that definitely like stood out to me. But just like the overall quality of like the dub was like subpar even by today's standards. It was really bad. But it's just like
Yeah.
iconic for the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, because this was dubbed by Central Park Media in '94, over a decade, like almost a decade afterwards. Uh, yeah, because this came out in '88 originally. But also after the fact, when I was doing some research or looking around on this, I didn't even realize this movie was based after a novel of the same name that came out in '82. Did you know that?
No, I didn't
A
actually.
old anime that's not kind of like because around the '80s you had like a lot of OVAs, so you had a lot of shows, but
Mm.
they consider them like original video animation because they're not based off of source material. And you usually assume that with a lot of movies, and maybe I just misremembered, but I didn't realize that. Now I want to go back and maybe see if there's like a proper dub because there was an English publication by Digital Manga Publishing uh, of this novel. I assume it's long since out of print, but worth trying to like track down potentially. But if you, the overall premise for this, they kind of classify it as like fantasy horror, and I guess you could see it. There's a fight between some dude with some kind of demon power and another dude who's not quite the hero because he obviously doesn't live. And it just kind of starts with the Shinjuku portion of Tokyo is
Okay.
thrown into chaos, horror. There's a bunch of demons. Essentially, there's a dude who's I'm trying to pull up his name real quick. Uh, Rebi Ra, who got a bunch of powers from some demons, is like in a 10-year slumber to eventually open the world to like the demon world to kind of let them through. And he's essentially
Yeah.
going to be like the ruler of it. And then you have your Kyoya, who's like your main male character. And then Sayaka, who is it's a very Japanese name, but she's not from Japan. Make that make sense. I think it's just '80s Japan, who's trying to like save her father, who's the president of some off the top of my head, some kind of like federation of countries or something like that. Um, Comes in Japan, he's kind of taken prisoner by this demon dude, so she's trying to save his like that's her motivation. And this dude's dad was the guy that died at the beginning of the movie, who's hey, you've got an innate power, need to move forward, and it's got a lot of tropes. It doesn't do anything new. One of the main early on in the movie, he's met by his dad and Rebi Ra's essentially teacher. It's like, hey, these are my pupils. I taught them. One stayed good, one went down an evil path. That a lot of tropes that it doesn't do anything different. It's just a standard, horror monster movie, demon movie for the most part. But I found it, for the most part, enjoyable for an hour, 20-minute long movie. It's definitely, an adult movie. It's got, a decent amount of language, some nudity in the movie for sure. That's definitely worth putting out there. But I didn't get around to actually reading it, but there were also 2 volumes of this that were turned into a manga in 2002 that was done by ADV Manga. So it's like, I'm learning about, I just remember this movie as a kid. Hey, you're not allowed to watch it. So I'm like, I want to watch this. And then, there's a manga of it. Now there's a light novel that this was kind of based off of. I'm like, how did I not know this growing up? It's just, you have like a picture in your mind. Maybe it was just like the late 90s, early 2000s, where it's like, hey, a bunch of 80s movies, OVAs, because you were like a kid and these are like really grotesque, doing a lot of stuff different, a lot of violence that you're not normally seeing. So they stuck out. But at the time they were like, when it came out, it was kind of like a by the books type horror movie that nobody cared for. Yeah, because I don't think you got a chance to get around and watch this movie, did you?
No, I didn't get to watch
Yeah,
it. No.
but I mean, I wouldn't.
Unfortunately, I would like to, but
I wouldn't say you're missing a whole lot. It's definitely a by the books type of movie. It doesn't do anything different. It's just hey, here's your hero. Unlikely, he's got to beat a bunch of demon minions that are powerful to get to the main guy. You fight him, you win, you get the girl, or I don't think can't remember if he actually gets the girl or not. But then roll credits type thing.
He don't grab the bag?
I think he does. I know early in the movie he's got a chance to, like, he looks at her like, I want to, but I shouldn't. I'm gonna go sleep on the floor next to the bed that she's in before they're attacked by another monster when they wake up. It was like a water-based monster that attacks him. That I think he's got a lot easier time.
I don't watch anime with monsters in it. Monsters aren't real.
I mean, they definitely look grotesque as far as the monsters go. They're not like, it's like the monster girl. It's like, yeah, this dude's kind of got like some like weird looking creature legs,
Yeah.
But he looks like a creature, not like they just kind of threw on like a human torso onto a kind of like a centaur type thing. They actually made these demons look grotesque and do a whole bunch of fun stuff. But I mean, if you want a Halloween movie to watch, it's worth it. It's not a
Yeah.
super long movie. It doesn't do anything unique, but it fits the tone of a Halloween at the very least. And you get
Let me
to see a flashback into both older anime, as far as like an 80s anime, and especially if you watch it dubbed, what dubs used to be like. You complain about dubs now being bad. Nah, back in the day, you just dealt with what you got, and they were far from good quality.
I just want to say I want to apologize if I was supposed to watch this because I didn't know.
Yeah, I
I
think
didn't
we
have
did, but it wasn't the biggest thing. There was plenty other to talk about, but
Yeah, I didn't know that I was supposed to watch this, or I would have. I do my homework.
nah. I mean, you can still watch it if you want, but
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were supposed to watch this.
no, I understand you busy some other stuff, but I mean, it's not, to be fair, not a whole lot to talk about this movie without
Yeah.
trying to like super spoil it, which I don't really want to do. It's not the whole point of this. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. But hey, want to thank everybody for getting to the end of this another episode. A lot of other good content both on the Game Junction channel on YouTube and here on the Junction Network, as well as over at Game Junction Media on the Twitch and all the socials. Obviously, that'll be down in the description below. I just want to appreciate everyone's support. And do you have one more thing before we head out, Brandon?
Nope. Just follow us on social media, and since we are just starting the Anime Junction Cast social media, sort of picking that up, be sure to follow us on there. Mark's posting a lot of cool things. I want to try to post on there too when I can. But yeah, pay attention to Game Junction and pay attention to Anime Junction Cast and the Junction Network because we got stuff um, constantly coming out. And Mark, with the Twitter X, you've been putting out a lot of cool things. It's been cool to see that. It takes up a ton of time trying to keep up with the Game Junction social, so I definitely try to post some here and there as well on the Anime Junction stuff. So
Yeah, but obviously if you're listening to this on the podcast or even on YouTube, say if you go over to the Game Junction YouTube page, we got Game Junction podcast, but got some other videos starting to come out, as well as here on the Junction Network, got the Anime Junction Cast podcast, as well as some more anime videos coming out. Mixture of some new stuff that I'm covering, as well as some other random kind of videos that I got kind of planned out coming.
Yeah, and then let me just mention too, we'll get all of the Anime Junction stuff added into the link tree, so we have got one link for everything that we do. We don't have the Anime Junction for any of the socials added in there, but we do have the Junction Network channel is in the link tree.
Yeah, I want to appreciate it, and if not, you've not seen it already, give us a like, a sub, leave us a comment down below what you think. You got any recommendations, stuff you want to see? We definitely want to hear everything you all have to say. But yeah, we will see you all next week.
Peace.